School bully hits. Black girl freezes when her dad shows up as the new chief. The slap wasn't loud, but it was enough to turn the entire hallway silent. It happened in the middle of third period change, right outside room 214. Students shuffled between lockers and classrooms, sneakers squeaking against the polished tile floor, backpacks slung lazily over one shoulder. It should have been just another sleepy Tuesday morning at Jefferson Middle School in Hartsville, Georgia. But then it happened. A sharp, open-palmed smack, a gasp, and then a silence so thick you could feel it press against your chest. 12-year-old Maya Carter stood frozen, her cheek stinging and her breath caught in her throat. Across from her, towering over her by a full foot, stood Tyler Granger, 8th grader, baseball captain, and local golden boy. His hand still hovered mid-air like he hadn't fully processed what he'd just done. Everyone else had. "Oh my God," someone whispered behind Maya. Tyler's friends, 3 of them, all in varsity jackets 2 sizes too big, stood just a few feet away. They weren't laughing. Not this time. One of them even took a small step back. Maya didn't cry. She didn't flinch. She just stood there, stunned, heat blooming across her cheek like a rising sun. Her lunch tray had crashed to the floor, spilling her apple slices and sandwich across the tile like roadkill. "Don't touch my bag again," Tyler muttered, eyes darting around the growing crowd of students. "I warned you." Maya didn't speak, not yet. Her pulse pounded in her ears, but her eyes locked on his. She knew that look, that smug, entitled, "What are you gonna do about it?" glare. She'd seen it before, in locker rooms, in classrooms, in the tight smiles of people who'd already decided what you were worth before you ever opened your mouth. She turned slowly, bent down, and picked up the sandwich with trembling fingers. Her backpack strap still hung half off her shoulder from when Tyler had yanked it. Mr. Kowalski, the hall monitor, came rushing down the hallway, breathless. "What's going on here?" he barked, eyes scanning the circle of students. Everyone looked away. Some shuffled back toward their lockers. Others pretended not to notice. Tyler had already backed up against the wall, arms folded like nothing had happened. Maya stood. Her face was calm. Too calm. "Nothing," she said. Kowalski squinted. "You sure?" She nodded. He hesitated, then gave Tyler a quick glance before sighing and muttering something about "keep it moving." And just like that, the crowd began to dissolve. But it wasn't over. Not even close. Because what Tyler didn't know, what none of them knew, was that Maya Carter's father had just accepted the position of Hartsville's new chief of police. He had officially started that morning. And Maya hadn't told anyone. She hadn't wanted special treatment. She hadn't wanted eyes on her. She just wanted to get through middle school without standing out more than she already did, as one of the few black kids in a mostly white school in a mostly white suburb, where last names and church connections meant more than truth. But today that silence ended. 2 hours later, Maya sat at the nurse's office, an ice pack pressed gently to her cheek. It wasn't bruising, not yet, but Nurse Holloway had insisted. "You should have told someone," the woman said softly, tucking a strand of silver hair behind her ear. "That boy had no right to put his hands on you." Maya stayed quiet. "You don't have to protect anyone," Nurse Holloway added. "Not even yourself. Not when someone crosses the line like that." That's the thing, Maya thought bitterly. Everyone here thinks the line moves depending on who's standing on which side. She didn't respond. Instead, she reached for her backpack and stood. "I'm okay," she said. But as she opened the door to leave, the nurse's phone rang. She paused mid-step. "Jefferson Middle, Nurse Holloway speaking." "Yes, she's here." A beat of silence. Then, "Oh, yes, Chief Carter. I understand. I'll send her right up." Maya's heart stuttered. When she stepped out of the nurse's office, the hall was empty, but it felt like the building itself was listening. Her dad was here, not just as a father, but as the chief. Upstairs, the main office buzzed with quiet tension. Principal Moran stood stiffly near the reception desk, face pale. Beside him sat Tyler Granger, arms crossed, foot bouncing impatiently. And next to him, towering, calm, dark blue uniform, crisp and impeccable, stood Chief Elijah Carter, Maya's father. When she walked in, he didn't smile. His eyes locked on her face, specifically the swelling on her cheek, and something sharp flickered across his expression. Not rage, not panic, something more dangerous. Resolve. "Maya," he said, voice even. She swallowed. "Hey, Dad." Principal Moran cleared his throat. "Chief Carter, I want to assure you, we're taking this very seriously. I just spoke to Tyler's parents. They're on their way." "I'm sure they are," her father said, not looking at him. He turned to Tyler. "Do you want to explain what happened?" Tyler sat up straighter. "She got in my face, grabbed my bag. I pushed her away." "Is that right?" Chief Carter asked, voice still calm. Maya stared at the floor, then looked up. "That's not what happened." Tyler opened his mouth, but Chief Carter raised a hand. "Don't speak." The room went quiet again. Elijah Carter took a slow breath, then looked at the principal. "Where's the camera footage?" Moran blinked. "Camera? This school has surveillance, hallway cameras. Where is the footage?" Principal Moran hesitated. We were just about to review it. I was going to speak with the security team." "No need," Chief Carter said. "I already did." He pulled his phone from his jacket pocket, tapped the screen, and turned it toward the room. Tyler's face paled as the video played, grainy but clear enough to see him shove Maya hard enough to knock her tray from her hands, then raise his hand. The slap. The silence in the office was deafening. Principal Moran stammered. I didn't know." Tyler's mouth opened and closed like a fish, gasping for air. Maya just stood there, watching. Chief Carter lowered the phone. "Effective immediately," he said, turning to the principal. "I'm filing a report with the school board. Tyler Granger will be suspended for assault, pending further disciplinary action. And if any staff member attempts to minimize or bury this incident, they'll answer to me. Not as Maya's father, but as chief of police." He looked at Maya. "Let's go." She nodded. For the first time that day, her shoulders relaxed. As they walked out of the office, the secretary stared wide-eyed. A few students in the hall parted like the sea. And Tyler? He didn't move, just sat there, frozen. Because for the first time in his life, his last name couldn't protect him. And Maya Carter? She wasn't invisible anymore. The ride home was quiet, but it wasn't the kind of quiet that settled comfortably. It was tense, electric, like something unspoken was hanging in the air between them. Maya sat in the passenger seat, arms crossed over her chest, staring out the window while her father drove with one hand on the wheel, the other tapping lightly against his knee. He finally broke the silence. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" She didn't turn her head. "I didn't want to make it worse." He exhaled through his nose. "Worse than getting slapped in front of half the school." Maya winced. "It wasn't like that." He looked at her just for a second. "I saw the video, Maya." Her voice dropped. "Exactly. You saw it. Which means they'll believe me now." That hit him like a punch to the chest. Elijah gripped the steering wheel tighter. "They should have believed you without a video." She didn't respond. They pulled into the driveway. The house was a modest two-story with a worn porch swing and flower beds that still had more mulch than blooms. Elijah had only moved them in 3 weeks ago. A promotion, a fresh start. New town, new title, new school. But nothing about it felt new to Maya. She got out of the car before he turned off the engine. Inside, she went straight to her room, closed the door, and dropped her backpack on the floor. The sting on her cheek had faded, but not the heat under her skin. She hadn't cried. Not yet. Not when Tyler hit her. Not in the nurse's office. Not even when her father showed up like something out of a movie, shutting the whole place down. But now, behind the safety of her door, she sat on the edge of her bed, stared at her reflection in the vanity mirror, and felt her eyes burn. It wasn't just the slap. It was the months leading up to it. The subtle comments, the shoves in the hallway, the fake rumors, the way nobody ever did anything about it, and the way she felt like maybe she didn't even have the right to ask them to. Her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen. One notification. Group chat. 7th grade girls. Tyler Granger just got suspended. What happened? Another ping. Did he really hit Maya? Wait, was that the chief of police in the office today? She closed the phone. There it was again. Not, are you okay? Not, do you need anything? Just gossip. Curiosity disguised as concern. She stood, opened her door, and walked downstairs. Her dad was in the kitchen, standing over the stove like he was trying to remember what to do with a pot of boiling water. "You're making spaghetti?" she asked. He turned, almost startled by her voice. "Yeah, I figured we could use something simple tonight." She gave a half smile. "You don't really know how to make anything else, do you?" "Not unless it comes in a box," he said. She leaned against the counter, arms folded again. "They're gonna say I only got him suspended because of you." He stirred the noodles. "Let them talk." "They already are." "Then you hold your head up," he said, glancing at her. "You didn't ask for favors. You just wanted the truth to come out. But it's going to look like you bailed me out." He met her gaze. "I didn't bail you out. I held people accountable. That's my job. That's always going to be my job." She let that sit between them. Then, "What happens now?" Elijah turned off the burner. "Now we eat dinner." "Dad," he looked over again, "what do you want to happen?" Maya didn't answer right away. "I want to not feel like I have to defend myself every time someone comes at me sideways. I want to stop pretending like it's all fine just so I don't make it worse. I want someone to actually believe me the first time I say something's wrong." He set down the pot and walked over, placing a hand gently on her shoulder. "Then that's what we're going to make happen." She nodded, but the weight hadn't lifted. Not yet. Later that night, Maya sat at her desk with her laptop open. She didn't feel like scrolling through the mindless updates on social media. Instead, she opened a blank document and started typing. It started with just a sentence. No one should have to stay silent to be safe. She didn't know what it would become. Maybe nothing. Maybe something she'd delete the next day. But it felt good to write it. Across the hallway, her father was on the phone. "Yes, Principal Moran, I understand, but this doesn't end with Tyler. There's a bigger culture problem at that school, and if we don't face it now, someone else is going to get hurt." Pause. "No, I don't want special treatment for Maya. I want fairness. For every student." Pause again. "I'll be scheduling a meeting with the district board next week. I hope you'll support that." Maya heard every word. The next morning, when she stepped onto the bus, the silence was almost deafening. People looked, some whispered, others just stared like they didn't know what to say. She walked straight to the back and sat alone. She didn't care, not today. Halfway through the ride, someone slid into the seat across from her. It was a girl named Yasmin. They had history class together but never talked much. "I saw the video," Yasmin said quietly. Maya didn't answer. Yasmin shifted awkwardly. "It was messed up. What he did." Still no reply. "Just so you know, not everyone thinks you were in the wrong." Maya finally looked up. "Thanks." Yasmin gave a small smile. Also, your dad kind of scared the crap out of the front office. That made Maya smile just a little. Yeah, he has that effect. The bus pulled up in front of the school. Maya stood, backpack slung over her shoulder. She didn't wait for anyone to move. She walked down the aisle, through the doors, and into the building like she belonged there. Because she did. And Tyler Granger? He wasn't coming back for another week. But when he did, she'd be ready. This time, Maya Carter wasn't walking through the halls with her head down. She was walking like someone who refused to be invisible. The school felt different, but Maya knew better than to believe it had changed. The walls still whispered, the eyes still watched. It was just quieter now, more careful, like the whole building was holding its breath. Tyler was gone, suspended for a week. Some kids said it was harsh, others said it wasn't nearly enough, but no one said it out loud around Maya Carter. On Wednesday morning, her third period teacher, Ms. Paget, pulled her aside after class. "Just wanted to check in," she said, voice gentle. "If you need anything, my door's always open." Maya nodded, but she could see it in her teacher's eyes. Guilt, the kind that comes from realizing you didn't speak up soon enough. Later, as she passed the main office on her way to lunch, she caught Principal Moran through the glass window, on the phone, his hand rubbing the back of his neck like the conversation was eating away at him. The name Granger drifted through the glass, muted but unmistakable. Maya's stomach twisted. He wasn't just gone. His parents were trying to clean it up. By the time she reached the cafeteria, the whispers were already spreading again. Not about her. About him. "I heard his dad tried to get the suspension dropped. Guess Chief Carter's not so easy to intimidate. They're talking about transferring him to Jefferson Prep." Maya sat alone, as usual, but this time she felt something she hadn't in a while. Control, not power, not revenge. Just the knowledge that for once she wasn't the one running. Across the room, she saw Yasmin again. Their eyes met briefly, and Yasmin offered a small nod. Maya returned it. It wasn't friendship, not yet, but it was something. That night at home, Elijah Carter was buried in paperwork, city documents and internal reports spread across the dining table like puzzle pieces. "You working late?" Maya asked, leaning in the doorway. He glanced up, surprised to see her. "Trying to. These school district policies are a mess." She stepped into the room. "What do you mean?" He sighed and tapped a document. "Do you know how hard it is to report repeated bullying and actually get action taken?" She shook her head. "There's red tape, guidelines, reviews, and the way they're written, it's easier for the school to call it mutual conflict than admit one kid is the problem." Maya frowned. "So even if someone keeps getting hurt, they just look the other way?" "Unless it becomes public," he said, meeting her eyes. "Unless there's pressure." Proof she didn't speak, but her mind was racing. "Look," he continued, "I'm going to a school board meeting next week. I'll make sure this doesn't just get swept under a rug." Maya swallowed. What if Tyler comes back and tries something again? Elijah's voice was calm, but steel beneath. "Then he'll find out real fast who's watching." Friday came faster than expected. Maya walked through the halls like a ghost in reverse. People saw her now. Some nodded. Some avoided eye contact. She didn't care. In sixth period, her English teacher, Mr. Baez, had assigned a group project. Her name was called along with 3 others, Yasmin, Paul, and Ryan. She sat with them as they brainstormed ideas. It was awkward at first, but not hostile. Yasmin took the lead. "What if we do our project on how the media changes narratives?" she offered, tapping her pencil. Maya raised an eyebrow. "Like how stories get twisted?" "Exactly," Yasmin said. "How people see one thing and believe another." Ryan looked up from his notebook. "Like that photo of you they messed with." That was insane. Maya froze for half a second, surprised he mentioned it. Paul muttered, "Yeah, I believed it at first." "Sorry." She blinked. Ryan shifted, embarrassed. Everyone was saying it was true. No one questioned it. Maya's voice came out steady. "That's the problem, right? Nobody questions the loudest voices." They nodded. It wasn't much, but something shifted again. The next morning, Maya checked her phone. A notification popped up, an anonymous message through the school's reporting app. "They deserved what happened. You're still just a liar with a cop for a dad." She stared at it. She wasn't surprised, not really, but it hit like a slap all the same. She showed her father. He took one look and nodded. "I figured they'd try to come through the back door." "Can they track it?" "I already sent it to the tech unit," he said, setting his coffee aside. "The app logs IPS. They'll find out who sent it." She hesitated. "Do you think it was Tyler?" His face darkened. "Or someone trying to keep his message alive?" Monday arrived. Maya stepped into school with her shoulders square. It was almost peaceful, the routine of it. Locker, books, first period, until the announcement came at noon. "Attention students, a reminder that the district's bullying policy includes all forms of digital harassment. Any student caught engaging in targeted abuse online will face full disciplinary action." It was Principal Moran's voice, and for the first time since Tyler had laid his hand on her face, Maya smiled in public. Because she knew what that meant, someone got caught. At lunch, Yasmin slid into the seat beside her. "You see who it was?" Maya shook her head. "Liam Callahan," Yasmin whispered. "He's suspended for 2 weeks. They caught him sending threats through the reporting app." Maya blinked. "But he barely even talks." Yasmin shrugged. "Guess he talks behind screens." And just like that, it all started to unravel. More kids came forward. More stories surfaced. It wasn't just about her anymore. It never had been. And the truth was finally starting to shine through. End of chapter 3. By Wednesday, the story had changed. It wasn't just about Maya Carter anymore. It was about the system. About who had power, who didn't, and what happened when someone finally stood up and said enough. When Maya walked into school that morning, something in the air had shifted. Teachers were more alert, students more cautious. The silence that had once protected people like Tyler Granger was starting to fracture. But Maya knew better than to celebrate early. If there's one thing she'd learned, it's that people don't give up power easily. In second period, she got a note from the front office. "Please report to room 203 after lunch." P. Moran Maya stared at the note, her stomach twisting. She hadn't done anything wrong, not this time, but that didn't always matter. She tried to push it out of her mind, focusing on the day, on group work and assignments, and keeping her head down. But the knot in her chest stayed. When the lunch bell rang, she skipped the cafeteria and made her way to room 203, a rarely used conference room tucked in a quiet hallway near the admin offices. Inside were 3 people: Principal Moran, a woman in a navy blazer she didn't recognize, and, surprisingly, Mr. Jensen, her 8th grade social studies teacher. Principal Moran stood. "Maya, thanks for coming. Please have a seat." She sat slowly, eyes darting between them. "This is Ms. Warner," he said. "She's from the district's Office of Student Equity." Ms. Warner gave a small nod. "Hi, Maya. I've read your file. I've also reviewed the footage from the day of the incident." Maya's voice was flat. "So why am I here?" Mr. Jensen leaned forward, arms on the table. "Because more students have come forward. Not just about Tyler, about other things." Maya's jaw clenched. "And what do you want from me?" Ms. Warner kept her tone calm. "We think your voice could help." There's going to be a district panel formed to assess racial bias in disciplinary actions. Student testimony matters. Maya blinked. You want me to speak? We're not asking you to be the face of anything you're not comfortable with, Moran said quickly. But you've experienced this. Your story has power, she hesitated. And what happens if I do? You help make sure what happened to you doesn't happen to someone else, Ms. Warner said. That's the point. Maya's fingers twisted together under the table. For months, she just wanted to disappear. Now they wanted her to stand in front of strangers and speak her truth. I'll think about it, she said finally. That night at home, her dad was already on the phone when she walked through the door, pacing the living room. No, I don't care what his father donated last year, he said into the phone. You don't buy your kid out of consequences. Maya waited until he was off the call. Let me guess, she said. Granger. He nodded. They're trying to appeal the suspension, she exhaled. What if they win? Elijah Carter met her eyes. Then we go higher. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Maya told him about the meeting with Ms. Warner. He didn't pressure her. He just listened. When she finished, he said, You don't have to do anything you're not ready for. But if you decide to speak up, I'll be sitting front row. The next day at school, things got worse before they got better. In the middle of fifth period, Maya's phone buzzed. She ignored it, but after class, she checked, and her heart dropped. Someone had made a fake Instagram account using her name. It had a profile picture pulled from her old student ID and bio that read, Angry much, Chief's kid throwing tantrums for clout. There were only 2 posts, screenshots of the fake photo from before, and a photo of her walking out of the principal's office, captioned, Guess she's crying to daddy again. Maya's hands shook. She reported the account, but she knew it wouldn't be gone fast enough. She showed the post to Principal Moran. This time, he didn't hesitate. We're tracking the IP now, he said. I've already notified Officer Delgado. It didn't stop the whispers. By the time the final bell rang, it felt like the whole school had seen it. Maya wanted to scream, to disappear, to go back to when no one even knew her name. Instead, she went home, pulled out her laptop, and started typing. The next day, she printed out what she wrote and handed it to Ms. Warner when she came by for a follow-up. Ms. Warner read it silently, then looked up. This is powerful, she said. If you're willing, we'd love for you to read this aloud at the next board meeting. Maya nodded. I will. The board meeting was held in the West Ridge High Auditorium. The air buzzed with tension. Reporters, teachers, students, parents. Elijah Carter was in full uniform, standing in the back with arms crossed, eyes alert. Not just as a father, but as a police chief. Maya's hands trembled as she stepped up to the podium, but when she looked out over the crowd, she didn't see enemies. She saw possibility. She took a deep breath and began to read. My name is Maya Carter. I'm 13 years old. I go to West Ridge Middle, and I've spent the last month being called names, pushed, laughed at, and lied about. Not because of anything I did, but because of who I am. I stayed quiet for a long time. I thought if I ignored it, it would go away. It didn't. I thought adults would fix it. They didn't. So I'm speaking now. Because I want to live in a world where kids like me don't have to be strong just to get through the day. Where standing up for yourself doesn't mean becoming a target. Where schools protect students, not reputations. I'm not here for pity. I'm here because I believe we can do better. By the time she finished, the room was silent. Then a single clap. Then more. Soon the room echoed with applause. In the back, her dad gave her a small nod. And for the first time in a long time, Maya Carter smiled without fear. End of chapter 4. By Friday morning, Tyler Granger was back at school. It happened quietly, without an announcement or warning. Maya first saw him in the hallway between second and third period, laughing with two boys from the football team like nothing had happened. Her heart dropped. So much for consequences. She clenched her teeth and kept walking, ignoring the urge to confront him right there in front of everyone. She had done her part, testified, told her story, and the board had promised change. But now it felt like a slap in the face. At lunch, Maya sat alone again. Most of the students hadn't said much since the meeting. Some gave her curious glances, others looked away. But the ones who laughed with Tyler, the ones who posted behind fake accounts, they made their stance clear without saying a word. Maya stabbed at her salad with a fork, appetite gone. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. A text from her dad. "Saw Granger's back. Don't worry. We're not done." She didn't reply. What was there to say? After school, she stayed behind in the library, pretending to work on a science project, while her mind buzzed with questions. How was Tyler allowed back? Why did the school fold so easily? Had her words meant anything? A shadow fell over her table. "You think you're some kind of hero now?" She looked up. Tyler stood there, arms crossed, smugness back in full force. "You got your little speech, your moment. That's it. You're not special." Maya kept her voice even. "Walk away, Tyler." He leaned closer. "Or what? You'll cry to Daddy again?" Her jaw tightened. "Number, I'll handle you myself." For the first time, his smirk faltered. "Look around," Maya said. "You think you're winning, but everyone saw who you are. You can pretend it doesn't matter, but you know it does." Tyler scoffed and turned to walk away, but not before muttering under his breath, "Keep dreaming." She exhaled and packed up her things. That night, she told her dad what had happened. He listened without interrupting. "I knew he'd be back," Elijah said finally. "The board's under pressure. His parents threatened a lawsuit." Maya felt heat rise in her cheeks. "So they win?" Her father leaned forward, elbows on the kitchen table. "Number, they pushed the school into a corner. But I've got something they can't touch." "What's that?" "The law." Maya tilted her head. "You're going after him." Her dad nodded slowly. "He made a mistake when he came back. That account they made, using your name, image, the edited photo, that's defamation, harassment. And now that he's back in reach." She blinked. "You're serious?" "I already sent the case file to the city attorney," he said. "If they want a fight, we'll give them one." On Monday, the school buzzed with rumors again. Whispers of legal action, speculation about lawsuits. Someone claimed they saw Tyler's parents at the district office, shouting at the superintendent. And then something Maya didn't expect happened. People started speaking up. First it was Isaiah, a quiet kid from her English class. At lunch, he slid into the seat across from her without a word, then said softly, "He did it to my cousin last year." She dropped out. Maya looked at him. "Why didn't anyone say anything?" Isaiah shrugged. "No one thought it would change anything." "But you did." Later that day, in the hallway, another girl, Riley, approached her locker. "I saw the fake account," she said. "I didn't say anything then, but I'm sorry that wasn't okay." "It wasn't you," Maya said. "I know," Riley whispered. "But I didn't do anything. That still counts." Word spread quickly when it came out that Maya's dad had filed an official complaint with the city. By Wednesday, the account had been taken down, and Tyler's parents were scrambling to do damage control. The real twist came during third period history. Principal Morin entered the classroom with a slip of paper and motioned for Tyler to gather his things. Tyler shot Maya a glare as he left, but she didn't flinch. At lunch, the announcement came over the intercom. "Students, Please be advised that the district has initiated a formal investigation into recent incidents involving student conduct and online harassment. We take all reports seriously and are committed to maintaining a safe learning environment for all. By the end of the day, it was official. Tyler Granger had been suspended again, this time indefinitely, pending a district-level hearing. Maya sat quietly in the library after school, letting the news sink in. She hadn't expected it to go this far. She hadn't expected to feel so calm. She didn't feel victorious or smug. Just steady. Her phone buzzed. Isaiah. Saw the announcement. Guess you made more noise than they thought. She smiled for the first time all day. Maybe this wasn't just about her anymore. Maybe this was the beginning of something bigger. And this time she wasn't alone. The school was buzzing, but not in the usual way. This time it wasn't about a football game or a dance or the latest viral trend. It was about Maya. The girl who had quietly endured humiliation was now the subject of whispers that sounded more like awe than ridicule. She really got him suspended again. I heard her dad's pressing charges. Do you think she's actually gonna sue the school? Maya walked through the hallway with her head held higher than usual, but inside she wasn't celebrating. Not yet. Because even though Tyler had been removed, even though her dad was working overtime to make sure this didn't get swept under the rug, Maya knew better than to think it was over. People like Tyler didn't go down without a fight. And people like his parents, they fought dirty. That afternoon, Maya was pulled out of chemistry class and asked to report to the main office. Her stomach tightened the moment she saw her dad already waiting there, standing tall and quiet by the window, arms crossed over his chest. Across the room sat Principal Moran, and Mr. and Mrs. Granger. Mrs. Granger looked furious. "This is completely unacceptable," she snapped the moment Maya stepped in. "You've dragged our son's name through the mud." Maya flinched at the tone, but her dad didn't move. "She hasn't dragged anything," Elijah said coolly. "Your son did that all on his own." Mr. Granger leaned forward, his jaw tight. "Chief Sinclair, with all due respect, you're crossing a line." "Respect," Elijah repeated. "Your son assaulted my daughter, harassed her for months, and spread defamatory images online. You want to talk about respect?" Principal Moran tried to calm the room. "We're here to mediate, not to escalate." Mrs. Granger turned to Maya. "Do you have any idea what you've done to our family? This could ruin his college prospects, his future." Maya stared at her, disbelief washing over her like a cold wave. "What about mine?" she asked. "What about the weeks I walked through these halls afraid to open my locker, scared of what people whispered? What about when he pushed me in front of everyone, when he laughed while his friends posted pictures of me online?" Mrs. Granger's mouth opened, but no words came out. "You don't get to rewrite what happened," Maya added, her voice firmer now. "He did this, all of it." Her father nodded in quiet support. Mr. Granger looked toward the principal. "This school has failed us. We'll be contacting the district." "Please do," Elijah said flatly. "We've already submitted the complaint." The Grangers stood, clearly not expecting the confrontation to go this way. Mrs. Granger shot one last glare at Maya before storming out. Mr. Granger followed, a storm cloud behind his polished exterior. Principal Moran cleared his throat. "Maya, Chief Sinclair, thank you. I just wanted you both to be informed. The board will review the full investigation this week." As they left the office, Maya turned to her dad. "They're not going to back down, are they?" "No," he said, "but neither are we." That evening, Maya found herself sitting at her desk, scrolling through the comments on a student-run Instagram page. To her surprise, a new post had appeared, a black-and-white photo of a locker with the caption, "To the girl who stood up when the rest of us stayed quiet, thank you." Below it, dozens of supportive comments, some anonymous, some from people Maya had never even talked to. She's braver than any of us. Wish I had her guts. She made us all look in the mirror. Maya stared at the screen, not sure whether to laugh or cry. Just then, her phone buzzed. A new message from Riley, the girl who once mocked her. If you ever need someone to walk with you through the hallways, I'm in. The words sat heavy in her chest. This wasn't pity. It wasn't guilt. It was something else. A shift. The next morning, when Maya stepped into the cafeteria, something was different. Heads didn't turn in mockery. No one snickered or looked away. In fact, a few nodded at her as she walked past. A couple even smiled. She sat at her usual spot, and this time she wasn't alone for long. Riley slid into the seat across from her, tray in hand. A moment later, Isaiah dropped into the seat beside her. No one said anything right away. They just sat there, letting the silence do the talking. Finally, Riley broke it. You were right to fight back, Maya shrugged. I didn't feel brave. Isaiah leaned forward. That's how you know you were. Maya's eyes glistened, but she blinked it away. This wasn't over. There would still be pushback. Rumors. People who wanted her silenced. But now the tide was shifting. And Maya Sinclair? She wasn't standing alone anymore. It was just past noon on Wednesday when Maya got the email that made her stomach twist. The subject line was short and cold. Update on harassment case. She hesitated before opening it. Her father had already warned her the school board was meeting that morning and that no matter the outcome, they would keep fighting. But still, she was hoping for more than just, we're still reviewing. She opened the email. It was from Principal Moran. Dear Ms. Sinclair, the board has concluded its initial investigation and determined that while the actions of Tyler Granger were inappropriate, they do not warrant long-term disciplinary action. He will be allowed to return to school after a 1-week suspension. We will continue to monitor the situation moving forward. Sincerely, Principal Moran. Maya stared at the screen in disbelief. 1 week. That's all he got. For months of humiliation, for the shove, for the photos, for everything, he got a week. She pushed back from her desk and stormed out of her room. Her father was downstairs, still in uniform, standing in the kitchen drinking coffee. He didn't have to ask. One look at her face told him everything. They're letting him back, she said, voice tight with fury. Next week. Elijah set the mug down slowly. I know. You knew? He nodded. Got the call an hour ago. Was waiting for the right time to talk to you. She paced across the room. So that's it? All the work, all the meetings, all the evidence, and he gets a slap on the wrist? Her dad didn't answer right away. Instead, he pulled out a chair and gestured for her to sit. She didn't want to, but she did. Her hands were trembling. They don't want a lawsuit, Elijah said, but they also don't want to upset the Tates. The board's stuck in the middle, so they made a decision that makes no one happy, but keeps everyone quiet. I'm not quiet, Maya snapped. I know, he said calmly. She looked up at him. So what now? Elijah leaned forward. Now, we take it public. Maya blinked. What? I've been holding off, trying to let the system do its job, but if they want to play politics instead of protecting students, then we go bigger. He picked up his phone and opened his email. I've got reporters I worked with in Chicago, people who care about stories like this. If we tell your story the right way, we can't be ignored. Maya's heart started to race. Are you sure? That would mean everyone knows. People already know, he said, but now they'll know the truth. That evening, Elijah drafted a public statement. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't dramatic. It was honest. He laid out what had happened, the school's failure to act until pressured, and how their so-called justice amounted to protecting the bully instead of the victim. He didn't name Maya directly, just a young black student at West Ridge Middle School, but everyone who knew them would know. When the statement went live the next morning, it exploded. Local news picked it up within hours. A small education advocacy blog reposted it. Then a civil rights group quote-tweeted it with the caption, "How many more students have to be failed by their schools before we take bullying seriously?" Maya sat in first period, phone buzzing nonstop in her bag. She kept it on silent, but her classmates were glued to their screens. By lunch, students weren't whispering anymore. They were openly talking about it. She really went public? Her dad didn't name names, but everyone knows it's about Tyler. They're saying the school's trying to cover it up. And then, for the first time since this all began, someone she'd never spoken to walked up to her table. A tall, shy girl from 8th grade. Her hands were tucked into her hoodie pocket. "Hey," she said, voice barely audible. "I just wanted to say what you did." That was brave. A lot of us saw what he did, we just didn't know how to say anything. Maya looked up at her. "Thank you." The girl nodded once and walked away. Maya sat stunned. That afternoon, the school board released a statement of their own, weak, full of platitudes about student safety and community values. But it didn't matter. The conversation had already moved on. Maya and Elijah spent the next few nights talking to journalists, some local, some national. Elijah made sure Maya was comfortable with every detail shared. She didn't want to be the center of attention, but she understood now. This was bigger than just her. Then came the twist no one saw coming. It was Friday morning when Principal Moran was suddenly absent. By third period, the school's secretary had announced that the assistant principal would be stepping in, temporarily. By the end of the day, Maya's phone lit up again, an anonymous tip to a student-run account. Word is, Principal Moran submitted his resignation. Board meeting next week to confirm it. Maya showed it to her dad. Elijah didn't even blink. "He was a good man," he said, "but he didn't stand up when it counted. That has a price." Maya nodded slowly. "So what now?" He gave her a quiet smile. "Now, we finish what we started." She wasn't just trying to survive anymore. She was changing things. San sang cho chuong tam chua. Jay se la ku ket vua thoa. Man vua goimo. Jung theo yeu kao kwa ban. By Monday morning, West Ridge Middle School wasn't the same school Maya had walked into just a few weeks ago. There was a strange, almost hushed energy in the air, as if the students and teachers all knew that something had shifted, but weren't quite sure how to talk about it. The hallways were quieter, the stairs fewer, and the whispers that once followed Maya had turned into glances of curiosity, of guilt, and for the first time, maybe even respect. But she didn't care about any of that, because the real change had already happened inside her. At lunch, she sat in her usual corner, tray in front of her, eyes scanning the cafeteria not out of fear, but awareness. And for once, she wasn't alone. 2 girls from her science class sat beside her, quietly chatting about their upcoming group project. Across from her, a 7th grader asked to borrow a pencil. No one was trying to make a scene. They were just treating her like she belonged, like she always should have. When Maya got home that day, her dad was already waiting with a smirk that said he had something to share. "You remember that PTA meeting I told you about?" Elijah asked, loosening his tie. "The one they moved up after the board statement dropped?" Maya replied, setting her bag down. "Yeah. Turns out it wasn't just about damage control. The school board voted to revise their harassment and bullying policy. Immediate escalation for any physical incidents. Required digital literacy sessions on online bullying. And get this, they're establishing a student-led anti-bullying task force." Maya blinked. "Wait, that's actually huge." Elijah nodded. "It is, and they want you to be on it, as a founding member." Her jaw dropped. "Me?" You, he said, smiling. They want the girl who stood up when no one else did. Maya sat down, letting the weight of that sink in. After everything, the silence, the humiliation, the fear, now she had a seat at the table. Her voice wouldn't just be heard, it would be part of the solution. That night, she opened her email to find a message from someone unexpected. Mr. Granger, Tyler's father. The subject line read, "An apology." She clicked it cautiously. "Maya, I know this message may not mean much, and it can't undo what my son did. But as a father, and as someone who failed to step in when I should have, I want to say I'm sorry. I've seen the pain he caused, and I've seen the strength you showed. Tyler is no longer enrolled at West Ridge. He's undergoing counseling and will be attending a different school moving forward. I can't force anyone to forgive him, and I'm not asking for that. But I hope one day you'll know that your courage didn't just hold him accountable. It changed how we, as his parents, look at ourselves. Thank you for not staying silent. Respectfully, Greg Granger." Maya sat in silence, rereading the message. She didn't reply. Not right away. She wasn't sure she ever would. But she didn't delete it either. The next morning, when she walked into school, the front bulletin board had a new banner. "Student Voices Matter. Stand up. Speak out. Be heard." Underneath, a flyer for the new student task force. Applications were open to all grades. As Maya passed the board, she caught her reflection in the glass. She barely recognized the girl looking back. There was still hurt in her eyes, but there was also steel, a quiet strength that hadn't been there before, a knowing. Later that day, as the bell rang for final period, she caught Lena Carmichael lingering near her locker. Not close enough to speak, just hovering. Maya gave her a nod. Lena hesitated, then nodded back. No words, just something small. Maybe regret, maybe respect. Maya didn't need her to explain. That evening, as the sun dipped below the rooftops, she and Elijah sat on the front porch. He held a mug of coffee. She had a notebook in her lap, sketching ideas for the student task force. "So," he said casually, "you thinking of running for class president next?" Maya snorted. "Let's not get ahead of ourselves," he grinned. "One step at a time." They sat in comfortable silence. A breeze rustled the trees. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barked. "I'm proud of you, you know," Elijah said softly. Maya looked over. "I'm proud of me too." And she meant it, because Maya hadn't just survived Tyler Granger. She hadn't just exposed a broken system or forced a school to wake up. She had transformed into someone who could speak, lead, and demand better, not just for herself, but for others. She had rewritten the narrative, and while the journey wasn't over, she wasn't walking it in fear anymore. To anyone listening, if you've ever felt silenced, overlooked, or powerless, know this. You don't have to wait for someone to rescue you. You can be your own voice. And when you speak, really speak, the world listens. If this story moved you, inspired you, or reminded you of your own strength, hit that like button, subscribe for more, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Because stories like Maya's aren't just stories. They're how change begins.